Do your projects often descend into chaos? Do you feel like you're wasting your time and resources even though you're working very hard? Today we're going to talk about a key to success: process optimization in portfolio, program and project management. Picture a world where decisions are made based on accurate, consolidated data, leading to predictable outcomes and maximized value. Stay with me and I'll show you how to go from chaos to full control and maximum efficiency. Let's get started. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is process optimization in context of portfolio, program and project management? It's a systematic approach to streamlining and simplifying how we achieve our goals. In PPM, optimizing processes is crucial for efficiency, cost savings, and successful project delivery. The key points here are identifying and eliminating the bottlenecks, reducing redundant activities, automating where possible, and standardizing methodologies and implementing standards. The goal here is to increase efficiency, reduce costs, improve quality, and accelerate execution. Let's have a closer look at these key areas. Bottlenecks are points in your project or portfolio workflow where work accumulates, leading to delays and hindering the overall progress. Identifying them is the first step toward improving flow and accelerating delivery. There are several things you can do to identify them. For example, use tools like Kanban boards or workflow diagrams to visualize the flow of work. Look for stages where tasks pile up. You can also measure the time it takes for projects or tasks to move through different stages. Spikes in cycle time for a particular stage indicate a bottleneck. This is referred to as the cycle time analysis. Another important thing that you can do is to analyze your resource utilization reports. If a specific resource or team is consistently over-allocated or has a large queue of work, it's likely a bottleneck. Last but also very important thing is the stakeholders' feedback. Team members or stakeholders often know exactly where the slowdowns are. You can conduct surveys or interviews or simply use the coffee break, grab a coffee and start talking to your team. They'll tell you exactly where the bottleneck is. So now that we know how to identify potential bottlenecks, let's think of ways to eliminate them. First thing you can do is to reallocate resources to the bottleneck stage, if possible. Next thing would be process optimization. You can streamline the steps within the bottleneck stage. Ask yourself the question, can some steps be done in parallel? Or what can you do to get the approvals faster? Another thing would be referred to as capacity building. If a skill set is a bottleneck, invest in training or hire more people with that particular skill. Another thing would be workload management. You can, for example, limit the amount of work in progress, leading into bottlenecks to prevent overload. Let's have a look at some examples. In a portfolio of software development project, all new feature requests must go through a single senior architect for final approval. The bottleneck here, and I've seen that so many times, is the single senior architect who becomes overwhelmed with requests, causing delays across multiple projects. How we can eliminate that? For example, you can delegate. This means train other architects or senior developers to handle some of the design approvals, or create clear guidelines for simpler approvals that don't require the senior architect's direct involvement. Another thing you can do to eliminate is to provide standardized design templates and checklists that speed up the review process. Another idea would be to schedule specific times for design reviews rather than ad hoc requests, allowing the architect to focus on reviews efficiently. In the next example, imagine marketing campaign materials in a portfolio of marketing initiatives need legal review before publication. The legal department has a small team and long turnaround times. What is the bottleneck in that scenario? It's the legal review process. What can we do to eliminate it? Well, first of all, we can implement a clear prioritization for legal reviews based on project impact and urgency. Also, you can provide marketing teams with self-service legal checklists for common material types, reducing the need for full legal review for every minor change. And this is an interesting example because it applies to the change management process. And it's a common approach to create such checklists and differentiate between the changes that can be accepted by the lower levels within the organization, by PMs, for example, as compared to a larger change that requires more involvement of other teams or management. Another thing you can do in case of the marketing campaigns is to assign a specific legal team member as a primary point of contact for marketing projects to streamline the communication and build expertise in marketing requirements. This isn't just about fixing individual problems, it's about building a resilient, predictable system that can connect the dots, track every detail, and give you a bird's eye view of your entire operational landscape. Next, let's have a look at reducing the redundant activities. These are the tasks or processes that are duplicated, unnecessary, or provide little or no value to the project or portfolio. Eliminating them saves time, resources, and reduces frustration. How can we identify them? Well, first of all, you can map out end-to-end processes for different project types and look for steps that appear multiple times or where the same information is gathered or disseminated repeatedly. You can also do an audit and review task lists and project plans and look for multiple teams performing similar checks or generating similar reports. Sounds familiar? Also, as in the previous example, you can interview stakeholders and ask team members what tasks they find wasteful or repetitive. How to reduce redundant activities? You can create a single source of truth for your project data, avoiding the need to re-enter information in other systems. You can combine similar reports or dashboards, ensure that reports are only generated if they are actively used for decision making. Another thing you can do is to eliminate unnecessary approvals by reviewing the approval process and asking yourself, are all layers of approval truly necessary, or can some be streamlined? Another idea would be to improve communication between the teams to prevent them from unknowingly duplicating effort. Let's have a look at some examples. In a portfolio of new product development projects, each project manager creates their own weekly status report in different format, and then a program manager compiles a separate aggregated report. The redundancy in this example are multiple disparate status reports and manual aggregation. What can you do to reduce this redundancy? For example, implement a standardized weekly report templates or dashboard for all projects with clear fields for key metrics. You can also use a PPM tool or dashboard that automatically pulls in data from project schedules and progress updates, generating a portfolio level report without manual compilation. Next key point is automating where possible. What if your team could focus 100% on high impact work? Imagine your experts spending their days problem solving, strategizing, and innovating instead of performing tasks that require zero brain power. Automation involves using technology to perform repetitive, rule-based tasks, freeing up human resources for more complex and strategic work. This significantly improves speed, accuracy, and consistency. So how to identify automation opportunities? First of all, look for tasks that are performed frequently and follow a predictable sequence of steps. Also, any tasks requiring moving data from one system to another, in that case I'm referring to manual data entry. Another potential areas are the notification or reminders, or in other words, routine communication that can be triggered by an event. And of course, one of my favorite and most common one, generating reports or creating standard reports based on existing data. So how to automate these areas? On our channel you'll find tons of videos about PPM tools that will help you leverage built-in automation capabilities and make the tool do the work for you. This includes status updates, task assignments, or notification triggers, among many others. Tools like Jira and related automations allow you to use custom scripts to connect different systems or automate the mundane tasks. So let's have a look at some examples in PPM. When a project reaches its initiation phase in your PPM system, the project managers manually sends emails to relevant stakeholders requesting their attendance at the project kickoff meeting and attaches some templates. What is the automation opportunity in this case? It's the sending kickoff invites and related materials. So what can you do in terms of automation? You can, for example, configure your PPM system or a workflow automation so that when a project status changes to initiation, then it automatically sends a pre-formatted email to predefined stakeholder group with the link to the meeting invite and related materials. In the next scenario, imagine that at the end of each month, the PMO manually collects budget actuals from various accounting systems, reconciles them with planned budgets, and then updates the portfolio budget dashboard. What is the automation opportunity here? You can, for example, integrate the PPM system with the accounting system using the API or the application programming interface, or set up scheduled data pools. You can also configure a portfolio dashboard to automatically refresh with the latest actuals, eliminating manual data entry and reconciliation. Alerts can be also set for significant variance. One example here would be a new module of the BigPicture tool called Finances, and we have a dedicated video just about that module, so make sure to check it out. The last key point on our list is standardizing methodologies and implementing standards. Standardization involves establishing consistent processes, templates, tools, and definitions across all projects and programs within the portfolio. This ensures consistency, quality, predictability, and easier comparison and aggregation of data. So how to identify standardization opportunities? Look for inconsistent project outcomes when different projects of similar type yield vastly different results or quality. Also look for conflicting terminologies when different teams use different terms for the same concepts. For example, milestone or phase. And this one again is a very popular one, and I've seen that so many times. Another one would be something like reinventing the wheel when project teams repetitively create similar documents or processes from scratch. Another symptom would be difficulty in portfolio reporting. When you're unable to compare project data, project progress or performance due to varied data structures or reporting methodologies. And this one is another very common example, fortunately quite easy to fix. So how to standardize? First of all, define clear methodologies. Establish preferred project management methodologies, for example, agile, hybrid, waterfall for different project types. You can also create standard templates for key project documents, for example, project charters, risk registers, status reports, or closure reports. Also, mandate the use of PPM software and communication platforms. This will get you up to speed, as most of the things are already configured there for you. You can also create a glossary of terms or a common glossary of a project and portfolio management terms. And lastly, but very important aspect, training and governance. Make sure to provide training on the standardized approaches and establish a PMO or a governance body to ensure adherence. Very important point. So let's have a look at couple of examples. Imagine that across a portfolio of IT infrastructure upgrade projects, each project manager uses their own approach to risk management, leading to inconsistent identification, assessment, and mitigation of risks. What is the problem here? Lack of consistent risk management. How you can standardize these approaches? Well, first of all, you can standardize the process and implement a common risk management process for all IT infrastructure upgrade projects. This would include, for example, identification, analysis, response planning and monitoring of the risks. Next thing you can do is to provide a mandatory standardized risk register template with standard fields such as risk description, likelihood, impact, owner, mitigation actions and status. Also, you can define common categories for risks relevant to infrastructure updates. For example, security risks, performance risks or integration risks. In our next example, imagine as a project manager you're reporting a project status for a portfolio of new marketing campaigns. Some project managers report on budget variance, others on reach and others on conversion rate, making it impossible to compare performance across the portfolio. What is the problem here? The inconsistent performance metrics and reporting. So what can you do in terms of standardizing the approach? Well, you can define standard set or KPIs or key performance indicators for all marketing campaigns within the portfolio. Also, you can implement a centralized PPM dashboard that aggregates these standardized KPIs from all projects, providing a consistent view of the portfolio's performance. And lastly, you can establish a consistent reporting cycle, for example, weekly or bi-weekly updates with clear deadlines and required data points. If you're ready to move beyond operational chaos and embrace the power of predictable, streamlined performance, let's talk about how standardization can be your biggest growth driver. Genius Gecko helps make that transformation a reality. So now that we covered some examples, you probably know the answer to the question, why is the process optimization so crucial? Well, without optimized processes, even the best plans can fall apart. So what are the benefits of optimizing the processes? Well, first of all, optimization results in better decision making. Standardized data allows for more accurate portfolio analysis. For example, prioritizing projects based on reliable data. The next benefit is the increased efficiency, meaning less waste of time and resources. For example, automated reporting frees up PMs for other important tasks. Another benefit would be consistency and repeatability, meaning everyone knows what to do and when. For example, by using the consistent project documentation template. Also, another important benefit would be the risk reduction, or in other words, earlier problem detection and proactive management. An example for risk reduction would be implementing regular risk reviews into the process. Another benefit would be the improved communication with clear established channels of communication and related rules. And lastly, stakeholder satisfaction when projects are delivered on time and within the budget. So where do you start looking for these magical areas for improvement? The key is to look at the entire life cycle of a project, program and portfolio. Areas for analysis include portfolio initiation and selection, where you need to answer questions like how do we choose projects, do we have clear criteria, or is the decision process transparent? Next area is the project program planning. Here you can ask yourself the questions, are the templates consistent? Is the scheduling process efficient? Another important area would be the execution and monitoring. Here you can ask the questions, how do we track progress? Is reporting standardized? Do we have clear change management procedures? When it comes to risk and issue management, ask how do we identify, analyze and respond to risks and issues. When it comes to communication and stakeholder management, ask whether information flows smoothly or are the stakeholders engaged at the right time. When it comes to project closure, the questions would be, do we conduct lessons learned? Are the projects and the related documentations archived properly? And lastly, I think one of the most important areas, resource management. The question here would be, how do we allocate and track resource utilization, which is very crucial for planning your future projects. Now let's get down to specifics. How do you go about the optimization? There are a couple of steps that you can follow, starting with the mapping of the current process. In this step, you want to understand how you are operating now. You can use flow diagrams to illustrate all the important processes and steps for optimization. Next, identify problems and bottlenecks. Find where the delays originate from, where they happen, when they occur, where is the waste, and make sure to ask the people that actually do the work, as they know exactly where these things are. Next, define desired process. 2B. Design new improved processes and focus on simplicity and efficiency. Next, very important and one of the most difficult steps would be to implement the changes. Here, based on our experience, a gradual rollout is always a good idea. Make sure to create a pilot program that involves a smaller part of your organization, and don't forget about a very important aspect, which is training the teams. Once the changes are implemented, next step would be to monitor and measure. So here you'll need to track key performance indicators that would provide evidence that the changes bring desired results. And the last but also quite an important step would be continuous improvement. Keep in mind that optimization is not a one-time event but a process. And that means that it takes time and you'll need to adapt to changes as needed. There are also several different tools that you can use to facilitate the optimization process or activities. You can use process mapping tools such as Miro or Lucid Charts, project management tools like Jira and related apps such as BigPicture or Structure, or other PPM tools available on the Atlassian's marketplace. And in some cases, when it comes to more advanced automations, you might think about developing custom scripts that will connect different systems or go beyond automations available in your PPM tools. Sounds easy? Well, not exactly, right? Based on our experience working with over 240 clients, it is not an easy process. And there are some common pitfalls that you might encounter. So what can you do to avoid them? Well, first of all, make sure that high-level management is involved. Without top-level support, success is difficult. Another pitfall is a lack of team engagement. Processes are for people and they need to see value in them. Without them, implementing changes would be a very challenging task. Another common pitfall is too many changes at once. So as I mentioned earlier, think about implementing the changes slowly and methodically. What else can go wrong? Well, you may fail when measuring results. So KPIs are a very important part, as you want to measure and show evidence that the results are, that the desired outcomes are achieved. Only by measuring you will know whether the proposed solutions are working. And lastly, ignoring the organizational culture. Processes must fit the people, not the other way around. Navigating complex business challenges, uncovering hidden inefficiencies, and making the right strategic decisions can feel overwhelming without expert guidance. If you're ready to tackle these hurdles with a partner who will not only streamline your processes, but also optimize your tools, licenses, and costs, all while ensuring maximum user adoption, then choose Genius Gecko. You'll find more information in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.